Hello! This is a special presentation of Stage Explorations, and we are here talking about theater and also promoting our show Day After Day. Now, Deborah, when did you first fall in love with theater, music, and musicals?
Well, Zach, I first fell in love with musicals when I was about 3 years old, and I saw the movie version of The Sound of Music. And I completely fell in love with Julie Andrews and the format of musicals. But my first recollection of seeing a musical live is when I was a little girl. I was probably about 8 years old, and I was living in England with my family. And my parents used to take my brother and I into London to see shows there. The very first one I saw was a pantomime version of Snow White. And if you don't know what pantomimes are, they're really silly, goofy, over-the-top send-ups of musicals. And this one was no exception. It was really funny. But I just remember walking into this old theater and just the dust and the red drapes and the carpet and the smell of the lobby and the glamour of the lights and the audience. Everything about it was magical and enchanted to me. And I knew that I had to be a part of this in some way. So how about you? What was your first recollection of musicals, and how did you know this was something you wanted to do?
For me, my love for musicals started, I must have been 4 as well. My parents took me to see Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat at the Pantages Theater. And I remember I said, I want to be in that show. And they thought I meant, like, I want to go see the show. And I was like, no, I want to be in the show on that stage. And they bought me the album. I learned all the songs. I would, sing along in the middle of our living room in my sweet boy soprano at the time. And then, Disney musicals came out, and, Beauty and the Beast, fell in love with that. Started performing myself. My first show, I was in 4th grade. I did Anything Goes in my middle school. And then continued all throughout. I went to school for singing in college, grad school, and here we are today. It's tale as old as time, I guess. It's just tying it all back. All right, question for you now. Why is theater and musicals important to go see and important to you?
I think that the film experience can be very exciting and fun to go see, but there's nothing like the experience of live theater. It's really an incredible energetic give and take between the audience and the people on stage. We're not just performing in a vacuum. So we need the audience, not just for clapping and applause or recognition, but because you're really a part of the story that's happening right in front of you. You're creating something together that will never happen again quite the same way. So it's really an incredible experience to witness live theater. And the stories that are being told on stage are so important to us, for children, for teenagers, for grown-ups. And also we need that escape, that kind of experience where we're transported out of our regular lives and into another world completely. And theater can really provide that. But what about you? Why do you think theater and musicals are important to go see and important to you?
Like you said, I think there is an experience you have with live theater that you don't get anywhere else. Anything can happen in live theater, and you don't have CGI and special effects. You really have to use your imagination. I think it's a great exercise in practicing, your imagination, suspending belief, and so it's an important part of our culture. We need to keep this experience alive moving forward because it's something you don't get anywhere else. All right. So how did you find out about Day After Day, and why did you decide you had to be a part of this production?
Okay. I saw a notice for Day After Day in Backstage. That's a publication for audition notices for performers. And I was intrigued because I'd never heard of a Doris Day musical before. And this looked like it was the premiere. And I've sung some of her music before in other productions, but I was interested to learn more. And I actually had a friend who was doing a production of Steel Magnolias with P3 at the time. So I reached out to her. I'd never heard of this theater company. It's a newer company. And I said, what's your impression? Are you enjoying it? Are you having a good time? And she raved about this company. She loved working with P3. She said it was a wonderful experience from the very beginning. They were incredibly professional, but also very enthusiastic and kind and gracious. And she was having a wonderful time. She highly recommended this company. So I was excited to audition. How about you, Zach?
So I was actually in P3's inaugural production of Evita, and my experience was so wonderful. I've never been a part of a group of people that were so wonderful on and off stage before, and it just was a company I wanted to work for again, and I will work for this company again as long as they will have me. So John reached out to me, asked if I was interested in auditioning, and hard to say no to that when a producer reaches out to you. So I did, and really glad I did.
I'm glad too.
All right. Tell me about Day After Day, the story, and your character story arch.
Okay. So the Day After Day story in the musical covers the life of Doris Day from the time she was a teenager, about 16 years old, all the way up to her later years, a very young 60, we'll say. And kind of the story weaves through her life using her music also to tell parts of the story of her life. So sometimes Doris is singing as Doris Day performing, and sometimes she's singing because she's telling you about what's happening in her life. She had a lot of incredible tragedies, but also a lot of wonderful, exciting, and glamorous things that happened to her. And I think even for longtime fans of Doris, they will come away having learned all kinds of things about her life that they didn't know before, as well as hearing some of their favorite songs. How would you answer that? What would you say the main story arc of Day After Day is?
Totally agree. Learning about her life through her music. It's a really interesting approach. I personally play the narrator, so I kind of keep the story moving along, introducing various aspects of her life from her career as a radio star, then moving into her career as a movie star. And at some point, it kind of becomes clear that I'm playing a real life person who's actually had a real life experience with Doris Day. The incredible writer of the show, Tony Santamauro, he met Doris Day on the set of It Happened to Jane.
I think so.
Yeah, and she invited him to be an invited guest for a weekend, and so he's a super fan, and this is really his story. The part that I'm playing, it's really through his lens as an adoring fan who cherishes her work and her who she was as a person. So for me, that's kind of what I'm getting at is my love for her and the amazing things that she does as a performer.
I would add, if we haven't said it already, that this musical really is a love letter to Doris Day, and written by Tony. He truly does love her, just admires her, and holds her so tenderly in his heart. So this is really a remarkable tribute to her. So the narrator that you're playing, it's not just an act. This is a person who really does love Doris and is so excited to share parts of her life in music with you, the audience. Yeah.
Well put. All right. Tell me about the music in Day After Day.
Oh. Mm-hmm. So unsurprisingly, the music in Day After Day that's all music that Doris actually sang. Some of the songs, some of the earlier songs, there are actually no recordings of her singing it, but we know that she did sing it. Like the song, the title of our musical Day After Day, there actually are no recordings that we know of her singing it. So, but yes, absolutely, it's all Doris's music, and it's not just me singing it. Zach sings her music as well as part of a tribute, and she was so prolific. She had so much music, but I hope that you will be excited to hear some of your favorites in this show. There's so much of it. Yeah. How about you?
So yes, we're hitting about 53 songs from her repertoire, which is an incredible feat in a 2-hour show. Yes. Some of it's just snippets, lines as we move through like medleys. But yeah, the songs tell the story of her life. So hopefully, you'll learn more through the songs that we sing about her life, and also you'll be entertained because a lot of it was just really entertaining in
it was
material.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Tell me about the whole Day After Day creative team.
Oh. Well, Zach and I are very fortunate because the creator and writer and the performers of Day After Day are the very people who are directing us in the show. So they really crafted this show over time. They took songs out, they added songs, it kind of developed very organically. And so we are really reaping the very best of what they came up with for this musical. And it's been honed into really a polished gem of a show. And so we're very fortunate to just kind of show up and be given this incredible guidance and also freedom to interpret things in our own particular way. So this is a really great experience.
Yeah. So Tony and Christy, our directors, Tony wrote the show, and Tony and Christy, father-daughter duo, starred in the original productions of the show. And David, Christy's husband, was the music director. So as Deborah said, this really was an organic process that kind of came together over time. And one of the funny things is, we have a script, but as we're rehearsing, we get to moments where Tony's like, where'd that line go? And it wasn't in the script. It was something that he added ad lib, in a certain production, but it's a really important fact. Mm-hmm. And so we're still, coalescing around, it's making a new piece, not a new piece, we are solidifying, continuing to create and solidify this work. So it's been an interesting process working with the creatives.
Yes.
All right, where are we? Is there an underlining message of Day After Day?
Yes, I would say there are several messages, and many of them are in the songs that Doris sang. But I think overall, the underlying message is really that of love and enthusiasm and courage in the face of all that life may throw at you. And Doris was a living example of that. She was very positive and optimistic, and not in a cheesy Pollyanna way, although we do reference Pollyanna in one of her songs. It was something she really lived in her own life, of continuing on and taking that next step. And if a door closes, a window opens. It's a really wonderful glimpse into her life and how she really lived what she believed in. So I hope that the message that the audience will get will be one of joy and courage, even in the face of life's tragedies. And they'll come away feeling wonderful and buoyant and uplifted at the end.
Yeah, I think that really sums it up really well. What do you want the audience to get out of Day After Day? I bet it's
kind of along similar lines. I hope when people come to see Day After Day, they will walk out dancing and singing to her music and feeling like they just had the biggest, most refreshing glass of orange juice that they've ever had in their entire life, because I really feel like she's pure vitamin C. She's pure sunshine. Like she's she just can't even help it, just by her very nature. Doris, even though she's no longer with us, her music and her energy and her zeal for life are incredibly contagious. And I hope that people will literally feel that sunshine has entered their hearts when they've come to see our show. Okay. For our last question, why must the Southern California community come to see Day After Day?
Well, this is the West Coast premiere of this show, and no one's doing anything like this. This is a story that isn't often told. You get an inside look at her life, Doris Day's music. It's a really fun, jam-packed 2 hours whirlwind experience, and I think you're going to really have a great time learning and singing along with Doris Day.
I completely agree. It's a happy, joyful, bubbly, sparkling ride from the second the show starts until the time that it's over, and we can't wait for you to come on the ride with us. From the Day After Day team and Stage Explorations, mark your calendar for the Day After Day production, and thanks for watching. See you at the theater.